Welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling when it seems like you're your own worst enemy? Well, today we're jumping into a classic book that tackled that exact problem head-on. Norman Vince Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking. Its whole argument is that the key to changing your life is changing your mind.
So the book kicks off by zeroing in on a problem that feels just so relatable. This quote from a 40-year-old man, it just perfectly captures that deep-seated self-doubt we all struggle with sometimes. And this feeling, this is the exact problem Norman Vincent Peale sets out to solve.
So, what's really at the heart of this self-doubt? According to the book, the central villain isn't your job or your finances or your circumstances. Nope, it's the negative mind. The real fight, Peale says, is happening inside your own head. Peale's big idea is that a lot of us are just stuck. We're trapped in this cycle of negative thinking. And it's not just about being a little pessimistic now and then. He describes it as this active mental habit that literally drains our personal energy and basically paves the road to failure before we even get started. You know, what's really interesting is where the word worry even comes from, which Peale points out in the book. It's from an old Anglo-Saxon word that means to choke. And he argues this is way more than just a metaphor. Habitual worry, he says, literally chokes off our vital power and our potential.
Okay, so if the problem is a negative mind, what's the fix? Well, the book's entire premise is built on one incredibly powerful idea. Our thoughts aren't just these passive things that happen to us. They're active forces that actually shape our world.
And this right here, this is the core idea. It's not about just ignoring your problems. It's about actively building what he calls a triumphant thought pattern. The book frames this as a super practical way to use faith, turning it from a passive belief into a dynamic force that can actually, literally, change your reality. This slide just lays it out so perfectly, right? You've got these two paths our minds can take. And the big takeaway here is that shift from being reactive, always focusing on the obstacles, to being proactive, visualizing success. Peale's claim is that this mental flip doesn't just make you feel better. It actually taps into a greater power to achieve what he calls the impossible.
This actually comes from a great little story in the book about a golfer who's stuck in the high grass. His friend tells him, hey, the obstacle isn't the grass, it's your perception of the grass. The whole point is that so many of the barriers we face are made bigger or sometimes even created by our own negative thinking. So how do you actually do this? I mean, it sounds great, but what are the steps? Well, the book moves right from the theory into a really practical method. It's not about just sitting around and hoping for the best. It gives you specific techniques to basically rewire your brain.
He breaks it down into this simple three-step process. And notice the logic here. It makes so much sense. You can't build on a cluttered foundation, right? So first, you have to empty your mind of all the negative stuff. Then, you deliberately refill it with the positive. And finally, you focus all that new energy by picturing your success.
And I gotta say, I love this analogy for the first step, the vacuum cleaner method. It's all about actively going in and sucking up all the dust, the fears, the grudges, the insecurities, instead of just letting them pile up in the corners of your mind. Now, when it's time for step 2, filling your mind back up, Peale's advice is basically, don't hold back, go big. He argues that small, timid prayers just get you small, timid results. The idea is to approach your goals with this bold expectation, believing that the power you're tapping into is big enough to handle it.
So, what's the payoff? What happens if you actually stick with this method day in and day out? Well, the book promises nothing short of a complete transformation.
I mean, just look at this list. According to Peale, the results are profound and they're consistent. We're not just talking about a little mood boost here. The book is promising a total upgrade in your personal power, your health, and your overall happiness.
And the book is just packed with stories to back this up. Take the San Antonio baseball team. They were stuck in a massive losing streak, just thinking defeat. So after a preacher supposedly blessed their bats, their entire mindset flipped. They started expecting to win, and then they did, hammering their way to a championship. The power wasn't in the wood, it was in their head. So what about this number? 85%. This represents the success rate of a struggling salesman in his very first week of trying this method. And his technique? Just saying a short prayer for faith and guidance before every single sales call. That small mental shift, according to the story, took him from near failure to massive success almost overnight.
All right, let's bring it all home. Why has this pretty simple philosophy had such incredible staying power for decades? Why are we still talking about it?
When you really boil it all down, its enduring legacy comes down to this. It's not just about thinking happy thoughts. It's a system, a faith-driven practice where you use your mind as a tool to channel a power that's greater than yourself. And the goal is tangible, real-world results.
This simple statement, "I don't believe in defeat," it isn't meant to be just some empty affirmation. In the context of the book, this is the factual outcome for someone who has truly mastered these principles. It's a complete shift in your mindset, where failure just isn't on the table anymore.
So we want to leave you with this question to think about. When you look at your own life, what challenge, what barrier, what impossible obstacle might just be, as the book suggests, only mental? What could change if you decided it was just a construction of your own mind?